The red scanner was the heartbeat of the 80s, yet it couldn't save the voice of God, or the gentleman mentor from the cruel silence of death. Tonight, we look under the hood to find the heartbreaking human cost behind the indestructible machine. David Hasselhoff as Michael Knight. Long before he sat behind the wheel of the world's most advanced automobile, David Hasselhoff was a young man looking for his place in the Hollywood sun. Born in the summer of 1952, he carried a natural charisma that seemed destined for the screen. By the time the calendar turned to 1982, he was 30 years old, fresh off a successful run on the soap opera, The Young and the Restless. He was looking for a break that would elevate him from daytime drama to primetime legend. When NBC began casting for a show described as a modern-day Western, they weren't looking for a cowboy on a horse, but a hero in a Trans Am. Hasselhoff brought a specific vulnerability to the audition, a handsome face. Yes, but also a weariness that suggested he could carry the weight of a secret life. As Michael Knight Hasselhoff did the impossible, he built legitimate chemistry with a prop. Acting against a dashboard voice box, he made the relationship between man and machine feel like a brotherhood. He wasn't just a stunt driver, he was the heart of the operation. He played Michael not as a superhero, but as a man given a second chance at life. His performance anchored the show's fantastical elements in reality. We loved him because he treated Kit with respect, bringing humanity to the hardware. His banter, his effortless charm, and that iconic slow-motion walk toward the camera defined the aesthetic of an entire decade. However, the shadow of the Knight Foundation was long, and escaping it proved difficult. After the show ended, Hasselhoff found himself trapped by his own icon status. The industry that once celebrated him began to view him as a caricature. Behind the global fame and the massive musical success in Germany, there was a man struggling to be taken seriously in his homeland. His personal life became tabloid fodder with the dissolution of marriages, including his union to co-star Catherine Hickland, playing out in the public eye. He faced a brutal battle with alcoholism, a private war that was often mocked rather than understood. The viral videos and the public roasting hid the pain of a man who just wanted to entertain, yet often felt he was the punchline of a joke he didn't write. Yet, true to the spirit of Michael Knight, Hasselhoff refused to stay down. He reinvented himself by embracing the camp, appearing in Baywatch to conquer a second decade of television, and later starring on Broadway. He became a self-aware pop culture deity, unafraid to laugh at himself while continuing to work tirelessly. He found stability in his third marriage to Haley Roberts. Today, on January 5th, 2026, David Hasselhoff is 73 years old. He remains a testament to resilience, a figure who survived the volatility of fame to become a beloved elder statesman of entertainment. He proved that while the car was indestructible on screen, the man behind the wheel was unbreakable in real life. Patricia McPherson as Dr. Bonnie Barstow. Born on November 27, 1954, Patricia McPherson was never just another pretty face in Hollywood. She possessed an intelligence and a grounded quality that set her apart from the typical starlet mold of the era. She was 28 years old when she joined the cast, bringing with her a sense of competence that the role desperately needed. She didn't arrive as a damsel in distress. She arrived as a professional. Her journey to the screen was paved with modeling work, but her demeanor suggested she was capable of solving differential equations rather than just walking runways. As Bonnie Barstow McPherson shattered stereotypes. She was Kit's physician and Michael's conscience. She didn't just fix tires, she calibrated the artificial intelligence that was the show's soul. Viewers loved her because she refused to be a romantic prop. She had a playful, often exasperated sibling dynamic with Michael Knight, often scolding him for treating her masterpiece of a car too roughly. Her presence validated the science fiction. If Bonnie said the turbo boost was ready, we believed her. She was the calm capability in the chaos of Michael's missions. Her tenure at the Foundation was not without its turbulence. In a move that highlighted the sexism of 1980s television, McPherson was unceremoniously fired after season 1. The producers, seeking more flash and glamour, replaced her, leaving McPherson questioning her worth in an industry that valued aesthetics over chemistry. It was a painful rejection made publicly visible to millions. However, the fans revolted. The chemistry was gone, and the show suffered. In a rare victory for the audience, the network was forced to admit their mistake and rehired her for season 3. It was a vindication, but the scar of being treated as disposable lingered. McPherson eventually walked away from the spotlight on her own terms. Retiring from acting in the early 1990s, she found a calling far more critical than television ratings. She dedicated her life to the planet. She became a fierce environmental activist fighting to preserve the Bologna wetlands in Southern California. She traded sound stages for city council meetings and scripts for ecological surveys. Now 71 years old, Patricia McPherson is a hero of a different sort. She didn't need a talking car to make a difference. She only needed her conviction. Her legacy is written not just on film, but in the protected landscapes she fought to save, proving that Dr. Bonnie Barstow was merely a rehearsal for the brilliant woman she truly was. Edward Mulhare as Devon Miles. Edward Mulhare brought a lifetime of theatrical gravity to the screen. Born in the spring of 1923 in Cork, Ireland, he was a man of the old world, stepping into a futuristic narrative. He was 59 years old when he donned the cravat of Devon Miles. A seasoned veteran who had famously filled Rex Harrison's shoes on stage and charmed audiences in The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, Mulhare was the seasoned anchor the show required. He didn't audition to be a star, he was hired to be the foundation. Devon Miles was the father figure Michael Knight never knew he needed. Mulhare played him with a mixture of aristocratic stiff upper lip and genuine warmth. He was the exposition machine, yes, but he was also the moral compass. We loved him for his exasperation, the way he would pinch the bridge of his nose when Michael went rogue. Yet beneath the stuffy exterior, Mulhare showed us a man who cared deeply for his operatives. He legitimized the absurdity of the premise. If a man this dignified believed in the mission, the audience did too. The life of a character actor is often one of quiet solitude, and Mulhare was a private man. While he was beloved on set, he often faced the industry's tendency to typecast him as the uptight Brit, ignoring his vast range and Irish roots. He lived a life largely out of the tabloids, which meant his personal struggles were fought behind closed doors. There was a melancholy in being the old guard in a medium obsessed with youth, watching the spotlight shine brighter on the leather-clad hero while he kept the lights on in the library. Mulhare remained loyal to the role until the very end, reprising Devon Miles in the 1991 reunion movie Knight Rider 2000. It would be one of his final bows. He battled lung cancer with the same quiet dignity he brought to his characters. Edward Mulhare passed away in 1997 at the age of 74. Even in 2026, his absence is felt in the franchise's history. He remains the gold standard for the mentor archetype. He taught a generation that true leadership isn't about being the loudest person in the room, but about being the one with the clearest vision. Richard Basehart as Wilton Knight, a titan of the golden age of cinema. Richard Basehart was born in 1914. By the time Knight Rider launched, he was 68 years old, carrying the weight of a career that included battling the white whale in Moby Dick and commanding the voyage to the bottom of the sea. He was an actor of immense power and resonance. When he was cast as Wilton Knight, it was a passing of the torch, a legend of the past igniting the hero of the future. Basehart's on-screen appearance was brief, but seismic. As the dying Wilton Knight, he delivered the show's thesis statement, "One man can make a difference." It wasn't just a line, it was a command. But his true impact was as the narrator. That deep baritone voice over the driving synthesizer theme became the heartbeat of the show. He promised us a shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist. He set the stakes every single week. We loved him because he sounded like destiny itself speaking from the heavens. The tragedy of Richard Basehart was that he never saw the full cultural impact of the world he helped launch. His health was failing just as the engines were revving. He was a man who had conquered Hollywood, but was now facing his own mortality, much like the character of Wilton Knight. There is a profound sadness in being the architect of a phenomenon you will not live to enjoy. Basehart continued to work until his final days, even narrating a poem for the 1984 Olympics closing ceremonies, proving his voice was a national treasure. However, the clock was ticking faster than Kit could drive. Richard Basehart died in September 1984 at the age of 70, just as Knight Rider was hitting its peak popularity. In 2026, over 40 years later, his voice still opens the show in syndication around the world. He remains the spectral father of the franchise, the voice in the darkness, reminding us of our potential for good. Rebecca Holden as April Curtis. Born on June 1958, Rebecca Holden was a woman of immense talent balancing a career in music and acting. She was just 24 years old when she received the call that would change her life and invite a storm of controversy. She was hired to replace a fan favorite in season 2, a daunting task for any young actress. She didn't arrive with malice. She arrived with a job to do, bringing a fresh energy and a different kind of strength to the garage. As April Curtis, Holden offered a softer, more nurturing counterpoint to the technology. While Bonnie was the stern taskmaster, April was the supportive confidant. She redesigned Kit, giving him new capabilities, and proved she could handle the wrench as well as the high heels. Viewers warmed to her because she refused to be a villain in the backstage drama. She simply played her character with warmth, elegance, and undeniable competence. She made the role her own, adding a touch of class to the high-octane action. Her time on the show was marked by an invisible burden, the Bonnie versus April war waged by fans and executives. She was the innocent party in a corporate decision, yet she often bore the brunt of the audience's longing for the original cast member. It is a lonely feeling to be the new girl on a set that is already a family, knowing that your presence is the result of a boardroom mandate rather than a creative evolution. Despite this, she remained professional, never letting the tension bleed into her performance. After leaving the Knight Foundation, Holden returned to her first love, music. She became a successful singer and humanitarian, using her voice for causes greater than television ratings. She toured, recorded, and found a spiritual fulfillment that Hollywood often denies its stars. Today, at 67 years old, Rebecca Holden is celebrated not as a replacement, but as a vital part of the family. She attends conventions with a radiant smile, having long outlasted the controversy of 1983. She proved that grace under pressure is the ultimate superpower. Catherine Hickland as Stevie Mason. Born in early 1956, Catherine Hickland was a soap opera dynamo with a fire in her eyes. She was 26 years old when she first crossed paths with Michael Knight. But her connection to the show was deeper than a script. She was David Hasselhoff's real-life partner. This off-screen romance bled into the celluloid, creating a tension and intimacy that no amount of acting could simulate. She was the white bird that Michael could never quite catch. As Stevie Mason, Hickland was the emotional kryptonite to the indestructible hero. She appeared in only 3 episodes, yet her shadow loomed over the entire series. She represented the normal life Michael sacrificed. We loved her because she was the only one who could make Michael Knight cry. When her character was tragically killed on their wedding day in the series, it wasn't just a plot point. It was a national heartbreak fueled by the palpable love between the two actors. The reality was just as complex as the fiction. Hickland and Hasselhoff married in 1984, becoming a golden couple of the era. But living a marriage in the flashbulbs is a heavy burden. They divorced in 1989, a split that mirrored the tragic separation of their on-screen counterparts. Hickland had to navigate her own career and identity independent of her famous ex-husband, battling the label of the wife while striving to be recognized as the powerhouse actress she was. Hickland executed one of the most fascinating pivots in Hollywood history. She conquered Broadway in Les Miserables, wrote books, and then reinvented herself completely as a hypnotist and CEO of a cosmetics empire. She found new love with Todd Fisher, joining another legendary Hollywood family. Now 69 years old. Catherine Hickland is a woman of many chapters. She is a successful entrepreneur and performer who took the heartbreak of the past and transmuted it into a future of her own design. She remains the eternal bride of the Knight Rider lore, but in life she is the master of her own destiny. Brian Thompson as the approaching storm. Born in the summer of 1959, Brian Thompson had a face carved from granite. He was 23 years old in 1982, a towering physical specimen looking for a foothold in the industry. Knight Rider was one of the training grounds for this young actor. He was just starting his journey miles away from the iconic villains he would eventually portray. He was raw, intense, and physically imposing a special effect in human form. While his role in Knight Rider was a smaller stepping stone, it showcased exactly why he would become a legend. He had a screen presence that didn't require dialogue to be felt. He could stand in the background and still draw the eye. We remember him not for a specific line, but for the threat he projected. He was the archetype of the 80s heavy, the obstacle that the hero had to physically overcome. For an actor with such distinctive features, the industry can be a cruel place. Thompson was often pigeonholed by his jawline and physique. Casting directors saw an alien, a monster, or a silent killer, rarely giving him the chance to show the softer, articulate man beneath. He spent decades buried under prosthetic makeup or playing characters with no names, fighting to be seen as an artist rather than just an antagonist. Thompson eventually embraced his unique place in cinema history. He became a staple of the Star Trek universe and the X-Files, finding a community that celebrated his distinct look. He turned what could have been a limitation into a legacy, becoming a beloved figure on the convention circuit where fans finally got to hear his real voice. Today, at 66 years old, Brian Thompson is a cult hero. He survived the typecasting to become a genre icon. He stands as proof that there are no small roles, only actors with big enough presence to make them memorable. Phyllis Davis as Tanya Walker. Born in 1940, Phyllis Davis was a seasoned performer by the time she walked onto the Knight Rider set. She was 42 years old, possessing a mature, dangerous beauty that contrasted with the younger starlets of the day. She had already made her mark in Vega Thalors, but she was about to play the most pivotal role in the Knight Rider origin story. She was the woman chosen to kill the man Michael used to be. In the pilot episode, Davis played Tanya Walker, the industrial spy who shoots Michael Long in the face. Without her act of violence, there is no Michael Knight. She played the role with icy detachment, a perfect noir femme fatale for the neon 80s. We loved to hate her because she was smart, lethal, and unapologetic. She was one of the few villains who actually won, forcing the hero to be reborn. Despite her talent and striking looks, Davis's life was often defined by the men she was associated with, including Dean Martin, rather than her own work. As she aged, the phone stopped ringing, the silent tragedy of actresses in that era. She retreated from the public eye, living a quiet life in Nevada. Her battle was not with international spies, but with cancer, a fight she waged privately and with dignity. Phyllis Davis passed away in September 2013 at the age of 73. Her death went largely unnoticed by the major news networks, a quiet end for a woman who started a loud revolution on television. Though she has been gone for over a decade, her legacy is foundational. Every time Kit's scanner whooshes, it echoes the moment she pulled the trigger. She remains the mother of the phoenix, the catalyst that burned down the old world so the night could rise. Anne Turkel as Adrianne St. Clair, born on July 16, 1946. Anne Turkel came from a world of high fashion and high art. She was 36 years old when she entered the Knight Rider universe. A former Vogue model and the muse of Richard Harris, she brought a cosmopolitan elegance to the gritty action show. She didn't look like a thug. She looked like she owned the bank the thugs were robbing. Turkel achieved something rare. She played a villain so compelling she was brought back multiple times. As Adrianne, she was cunning, sophisticated, and ruthless. She challenged Michael Knight not with fists, but with schemes. The audience was captivated by her icy stare and her ability to manipulate everyone around her. She was the Moriarty to Michael's Sherlock, a reminder that evil could be beautiful. Behind the glamour lay a series of profound losses. Turkel endured the death of her beloved brother and the passing of her ex-husband and soulmate, Richard Harris. She faced the brutal reality of an industry that discards beauty as it ages, fighting to maintain her relevance and dignity in a town with a short memory. The stunts she performed herself took a toll, but the emotional resilience required to survive loss was her true strength. Turkel channeled her passion into advocacy. She became a warrior for animal rights and veterans, using her platform to speak for the voiceless. She refused to fade into the background, maintaining her striking presence and working on her memoirs. Now 79 years old, Ann Turkel is a living portrait of grace. She lives in Southern California, still vibrant, still active. She taught us that a great hero deserves a great villain, and she played the part with unforgettable style. Tony Dow as Julian Groves. Born in 1945, Tony Dow was television royalty before he could drive. As Wally Cleaver on Leave It to Beaver, he was the face of the idyllic American childhood. By 1982, he was 37 years old, fighting the hardest battle a child star can face growing up. When he guest-starred on Knight Rider, it was an attempt to break the mold to show the world he was an actor, not just a memory of black and white suburbia. His appearance was a jolt of recognition for the audience. Seeing Wally in a high-stakes action drama grounded the show in a strange reality. He played his role with a frantic energy, shedding the wholesome image to inhabit a character in distress. We rooted for him not just because of the script, but because we felt we had grown up with him. He brought a baked-in empathy that no other actor could replicate. But the smile that comforted millions hid a deep, crushing darkness. Dow suffered from severe clinical depression, a condition he later bravely made public. He spoke of the sadness that enveloped him even as the world told him he had everything. He struggled to find his identity outside of the Cleaver household, battling the feeling that his best days were behind him before he hit puberty. Dow eventually found peace not in front of the camera but with his hands. He became a renowned sculptor, creating abstract bronze art that expressed the complexity he couldn't say in words. He reinvented himself as an artist, finally stepping out of Wally's shadow. Tony Dow passed away in July 2022 at the age of 77. He left behind a legacy of kindness and artistic beauty. He reminded us that even the people who seem to have the perfect life can be fighting hidden wars, and that reinvention is always possible. Lance Burton as the magician, a prodigy of illusion who brought real magic to a fictional world. Born in 1960, Lance Burton was a wunderkind. At just 22 years old, he had already won the highest honors in the world of magic. He wasn't an actor pretending to be a magician. He was the real deal. When Knight Rider cast him in Deadly Nightshade, they were capturing a rising star who was about to conquer Las Vegas. Burton played a murderer who used magic to commit crimes, a dark reflection of his own skills. His dexterity and sleight of hand were mesmerizing on camera. He brought an authenticity to the role that special effects couldn't mimic. We were dazzled because we knew deep down he was actually performing those tricks. He was the lethal showman, proving that a deck of cards could be as dangerous as a gun. To be a magician is to live a life of repetition and secrecy. Burton went on to perform over 15,000 shows in Las Vegas. The physical toll of perfection, the nightly adrenaline, the isolation of the spotlight, the pressure to never miss a cue wears on the soul. He gave his youth to the stage, sacrificing normalcy for the applause of strangers living inside a meticulously constructed illusion. He knew when to walk away. Retiring in 2010, Burton escaped the trap that catches so many Vegas legends. He left while he was on top, returning to a quieter life. He now mentors the next generation, passing on the secrets of the craft. Today, at 65 years old, Lance Burton is the elder statesman of magic. His time on Knight Rider is a time capsule of his meteoric rise. He showed us that sometimes the most unbelievable things on screen aren't camera tricks, they are pure skill. Geena Davis as the girl next door. Before she was an icon, she was a glimpse of the future hidden in a single episode. Born in the winter of 1956, Geena Davis was a statuesque beauty with a mind like a steel trap. In the early 80s, she was 26 years old, modeling and looking for her entry point. She appeared in the episode K.I.T.T. the Cat, a small role for a woman destined for giants. She was unknown then, a working actress, taking the jobs that came unaware that she was just years away from winning Academy Awards. Even in a guest spot, her charisma was undeniable. She had a quirkiness, a specific rhythm to her delivery that signaled she was different. She wasn't just another damsel. She was a presence. Looking back, her scenes feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. We watch now and see the spark of Thelma and Louise and a league of their own waiting to ignite. Davis's journey was fraught with the systemic sexism of Hollywood. She faced directors who treated her like a prop and a world that tried to define her by her height and beauty. She endured high-profile marriages and divorces, but her true battle was for representation. She realized that women and girls were being erased from the screen, and she decided to fight back, not with anger, but with data. She founded the Geena Davis Institute on Gender in Media, changing the industry from the inside out. She became an Olympic-level archer, an Oscar winner, and a mother. She transformed her frustration into a movement. Now 69 years old, Geena Davis is Hollywood royalty. Her stop at Knight Rider was just a warm-up. She proved that the guest star of today is the legend of tomorrow, and she continues to hit the bullseye in every endeavor she undertakes. Jason Bateman as the child of the lot. Born in 1969, Jason Bateman was the quintessential 80s kid actor. He was just 13 years old during the Knight Rider era. He was growing up on the Universal lot, jumping from Little House on the Prairie to guest spots on the biggest action shows of the time, including Knight Rider's Lost Night episode. He was precocious, sharp, and possessed a comedic timing that was decades beyond his age. Bateman played the smart-mouthed kid archetype to perfection. He was the foil to Michael Knight, the youngster who wasn't impressed by the leather jacket. Even then, his dry wit was evident. He held his own against Hasselhoff and the car-stealing scenes with a shrug and a smirk. We loved him because he represented the audience's cynicism, grounding the fantasy with a teenager's eye roll. But the 90s were cruel to Jason Bateman. As he grew out of the cute kid roles, the phone went dead. He entered a lost decade, fueled by partying, drugs, and alcohol, a desperate attempt to fill the void left by a stalled career. He was the punchline of, "Where are they now?" Jokes, a cautionary tale of too much, too soon. He faced the oblivion that claims so many child stars, seemingly washed up by his mid-20s. Then he pulled off the greatest magic trick of all, a resurrection. With Arrested Development and later Ozark, he reinvented himself as a brilliant dramatic actor and a powerhouse director. He sobered up, focused, and conquered the industry that had written him off. Today, at 56 years old, Jason Bateman is one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. His brief time in Michael Knight's passenger seat was just the prologue to one of the greatest comeback stories in entertainment history. The turbo boost is offline. Kitty T is parked in a museum, cold and silent. Standing here in early 2026, we mourn the unspeakable loss of Edward Mulhare and Richard Basehart, the fathers of the mission. They taught us that technology is nothing without a human soul. The road is lonely now, Michael. Drive safe.